In a world full of $150 Predators, this is actually almost worth it. So $52 to put in an OMB warehouse crank and a $12 gasket set off of Amazon doesn't sound too bad. There's a lot of what ifs, and we're going to cover that in just a sec. But let's cover why we're trying this. So, on a generator, basically the only real major difference is this shaft, your crank. So, John, if you throw that wrench on there, this is a regular 3/4, and this is a no bueno, does not fit. Now, we've done videos on this in the past. You can clamp this thing down, get it up and running, and you can take a flap disc, you can grind that down, and you can cut a keyway in, and you can say screw it and be up and running and throw it onto a go-kart. That's cool. Have at. The other thing about this that we need to address is that that's a regular side cover. On a really cheap generator, they use a bolt-on side cover. On a long-term generator, they use a side cover that is an integrated part of the generator unit for strength. Now, we've already shown with these Predator side cover assemblies that we can replace them with about a $30 side cover off of Amazon. But at that case, you're at 30 plus 52, that puts you at 82. You might as well just go buy a Predator brand new at that point when they go on sale. So, we're going to rip this apart, and we're going to hope on two things. One, that the flywheel fits on this DUCAR style, because there's about 3 different potential styles for the end of the flywheel. And we're going to hope that this cheap Champion engine does not have a straight cut cam gear. If it has a straight cut cam gear, well, you can tell my better half that I spent $52.
No, you can, because then I'm going to be able to do this and use power tools.
Okay. Now, I know right now there's somebody screaming that they have a puller to do that with and everything, but I don't have one, so we do it this way. Just like that. Now, we gotta grab a permanent marker and find out whether this is a win or a fail. I'm going to have John zoom in right here so that you can see this line is actually above the bottom of the keyway here. And that's to point out that you've got upwards of 1/8 of an inch or so that goes below the flywheel. So don't freak out if the flywheel doesn't fully embed all the way in and you see the bottom of this. So now we've got our crank. We've got blue lines with permanent marker on here. We're going to set it down in and press on it. And as you can see right there, it's sitting about the same distance that it was on the stock one. And we're just going to push down and we're going to rotate it. And then we're going to reverse it and rotate it the other way. And when we pull it out, hopefully we will see scarring across most of the line. We've got scarring all the way down that line, scarring all the way down that line. So this will fit the DUCAR crank. Problem number 1 solved. All right, let's find out what's behind door number drain plug. We got a nice clean thing to pour this into. And we have black-ish, but I don't see any metal, so I'm okay with that. Yeah, that's all nice and clean black. That's not metal-filled black. So that's good. So we'll get the rest drained out and pop the side cover off. While John's fighting with the 6 side cover bolts, they're 12mm by the way, and everything else on this seems to be a 10, which is weird. Normally these are 8. But we did verify that a standard side cover gasket lines up with all the bolt holes on here. So that should work. And John's going to pull out the other 3 here, and we'll pop the side off. What in the world are you doing? Did you get all 6 bolts out?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Congratulations, you counted. You can be the next monster on Sesame Street now. Why is that not coming loose? I bet it's all the rust buildup right here won't let it go. Okay, you hold the camera, I'll try. Again. Ah, there it goes. There we go. We've got angled cuts. Looks as if it's a standard gear. So we're going to throw a caliper on here and double check and then go from there. Engine building side note, you can pull the cam right now, but to reinstall it, you have got to take the valve cover off and pull the rods out from underneath the rockers. But at this point, John, you should be able to grab onto it and just kind of jostle it and pull it out of there. We did note that it says 170 on it. And that's interesting considering that a lot of these are usually labeled 168. Did you get it out of there?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, so you got to pull it and clock it this way with the teeth as you're pulling it. And this thing seems to be pretty sealed up, so it might just be kind of tight. If we have to, we'll pull the valves. Yep, so just get rough with it, as I almost hit you in the head. I'm sorry. There we go. So this is your pressure release. Anytime that you're pulling one of these, you'll always want to make sure this little spring is here and happy, because that little spring comes loose and everything goes wrong. And you want to check your lobes. See, like right here, see how they're nice and they're polished, they're happy. Oh man, I can feel with my thumb just how not straight and rolled over that is. I don't know if you can see that yeah, right there. You can see that edge line in the reflection. Those things literally come up and then go over an edge. That's horrible. That is not a high quality cam. Okay. This is your oil sensor, and you can just cut that and undo both of these. You can leave this right in the side of the block if you want to, but most people usually remove it and close this off with something. And now we have got to see if we pull those. These are the rods I was talking about, are now going to come dropping down into the engine bay. So you want to be careful with those. If you're monkeying around between engines and stuff, the Hemi rods on a lot of engines are different. So you want to make sure you maintain your rods with whatever engine block they came out of. Here we go. John's got a wrench, a 10mm, and the lifting handle for a deck off of a lawn tractor. I'm going to hold this thing. Go ahead, John. And they're in there really good. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so if you take it and you put it to top dead center and then you rotate it about a quarter of a turn, as you can see, you can get to the bolt there and the bolt there so that we can get this end of the rod off, and then we'll push it all the way up through into the cylinder and we should be able to get the crank out. There's no way to show this while we knock the crank out of here, but if you rotate it all the way up to top dead center and then give it just a little bit of a push, as you can see, it clears the rod without having to pull the head. This head, we can hear that it's got valve leak, so we might end up in the head a little bit after doing this anyway. But for now, I should be able to smack it with a hammer on the other side and get it out of here. Alright, grabbing onto support and pulling, flywheel nut on the other end, and whoops, I just rotated it accidentally. There we go. Okay, smack it and see if it comes out. And one more. And take the flywheel nut off. There we are. So now, unfortunately, we've got to get that bearing off and put it onto the other one, but it looks like it moved pretty easily, so it shouldn't be a problem. There we go, brand spanking new part inside here. So, we pulled the bearing off the old crank, we put it onto this one, it seems to be perfectly fine. We slid it in, and then we rotated it around until we could hit the bottom of the connecting rod, and we just hand tightened this top one in. Now what we should be able to do is get the assembly to rotate, and get it to this point so that now we can put the bottom bolt in and we can tighten these, torque them down, put the UGAs to them, whatever your choice is. I forgot to remove the spark plug, and that's why that was such a traumatizing experience attempting to do. We're going to let John enjoy the pleasure of trying to get lifters into the two holes in there. So we've taken the time to throw some axle grease on them, so once they're in and you slide them all the way up, that they're going to stay stuck there until you put the rods back in from underneath the rockers. There we go. Now we've already taken the time to clock this gear so that the timing mark is right there. Now if you grab your cam and you take a look at it, you're going to see that there's a timing mark there. But the thing is you have to line up the timing mark with this lower part of the tooth, not the upper part. So it's actually going to be off this direction and then click down into timing. So here you go, John. So set the nub down in first, and then you're going to line up the bottom of that tooth with the timing dot and then rotate this way. Can we see? There you go. So you got it correct. So you got to set it in one tooth looking as if it's off, and then it rotates this direction into place. At this point, we're going to throw a little bit of oil into it so it's just preemptively got some, and then we're going to put the side cover on, and then we'll put the flywheel on, and then we'll get the rockers put back on. Basically, we'll bring you guys back in a sec. Alright, comment section, let's have an argument. Do you sand down the magnet if it's rusty? Because I do. And then you take the 50 grit sandpaper and you use it to set the gap on the coil. But, you know, to each their own. What is your preferred thing to set gap with? We've had the argument of matchbooks, credit cards, business cards, post-it notes, packaging paper, wax paper. I don't know. I've heard all kinds of different things. Alright, John's fighting with what it's like to have too much length. I'm over here dealing with an old box of Duramax 208 intake parts. But we seem to be missing the choke bracket out of this or the choke lever, since like the last time we built that engine was like 10 years ago. So we've got another bundle of parts from working on the Duramax that's in this unit. And in here we should have choke lever. So there we go. And also Hipa Carburetor came out with some new side covers. So we're going to be working with those and see how those feel. I tell you what, these things are way heavier. They're much thicker gauge than what you usually end up buying for Chinesium side covers. So I'm happy to play with those. Pull starts, my bad. They're pull starts that go on the side cover. Yes, I know, chastise me in the comment section. But anyways, that was the last piece of the puzzle until John gets his job done. Are you done yet?
This is difficult.
It is not difficult.
Do you want to do it?
No, you're supposed to do it. I did the hard parts. I just ran a caliper on this and ended up discovering that this is actually the smaller Venturi 160 style carburetor on here. So I don't know whether this was manufactured this way or whether it was somebody swapping one on. But we're going to throw this one on just because this one here is tunable. So that way when we run a stage 1 kit on this later, depending on what it's on, it's a lot easier to deal with. Could we clean this one out? Yes, it passes the blow test, which is where if you put your thumb on here and you blow into the bottom of that you can actually pass through the jet. So it is probably runnable, but the Venturi on it is so small, I don't see a reason to bother on this particular engine. No, there is no way that would be a gas tank welded to a bandsaw blade hanging from the ceiling. We wouldn't do that. Alright, so on. Choke. Fingers crossed. Now, John bolted this down, so if it goes flying, we know who to blame. Ready?
Yep.
Alright.
You broke it.
Okay. Good job. Okay, note to self, we need to go over emergency engine came loose because somebody didn't bolt it down good enough procedures.
I did.
You did? That is not bolted down. What the hell? Reinforced, bolted down. Hopefully knows where the kill wire is that was hanging off, easy to grab hold of and ground out. How in the world do you do that? What wire? You know, you got this one here, but apparently knowing the black one after all these years was not worth knowing. Okay, so on, you hold table, give pull. I'm going to end up jerking the table across here. Nope, need choke. Sorry for shaking you guys. Give it choke. Grab the kill wire. You have to hold it to it. How in the world, after rebuilding with me like 600 or so lawn tractors, do you not understand a kill wire has to be held in? I am ashamed of you. Okay, that's the end of this video. Say bye-bye.